who remembers Lou Gehrig? Remember Lou Gehrig? ALS, amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. What is that? Well, that's a more debilitating form of MS, where the individual then, you know, they're not going through any remission at all. They're going through a more advanced type of, you know, degenerative decay and illness and disease and, God forbid, you know, death. So what was Lou Gehrig, what was he on as far as his picture? What was he on? What box? What box was his picture on? Advertising.
Oh.
What box was he on? Anybody know? You don't know this, Susan. You're too young. What was it?
Wheaties.
There you go. It was Wheaties. Wheaties. Okay. What is Wheaties?
Gluten.
Wheat and gluten, right? Now, if you go to our website, the www.Huntington Beach, and we have a lot of different websites, Huntington Beach, Thyroid Doctor, and that's all spelled out, .com, you'll see some different posts, you know, that we've written, okay? And you'll get into the blog area, and what is, you know, what is this gluten fad all about, right? Because don't people think that this is a fad? What do you think, Cynthia?
The only thing I know about it is one of those girls on Survivor didn't eat it for a while and she felt better and now she doesn't eat it and I have no idea what it is.
Right.
That's all I know.
But you
Yeah.
hear it all the time.
You hear it
It's
all
the
the time.
newest fad.
Right, it's the newest fad.
It's the newest
So
fad.
there's
It's
that
going to
one-
fade like everything else.
Right. So, you know, we've all heard of genetic modification, haven't we?
Okay.
Have we heard of that? Genetic modification of foods?
Oh yeah.
So
that's a big
this
thing
is a big thing
Didn't we
because
just have a proposition?
Yeah.
on that?
right,
we
we had a
did.
proposition. So what happened was that Monsanto, who everybody knows Monsanto?
Yeah.
Monsanto is the largest chemical company and producer of the seed, right? So they genetically modified the seed. Now here's what they've done. They've actually taken that seed and now, you know, the whole gist of what was so that crops, we'd have more crops, we'd have less, you know, fungicides, herbicides, pesticides and all of that. We'd actually help, you know, the crops for the entire world. Well, that's baloney. Because now what happens is, what do we know? When a crop has gone through the whole process, aren't there usually seeds left over,
Yes.
right? So that we can grow new crops.
Exactly.
Can't do that now.
That's what they
You
do.
can't do that now with the genetic modification. So what have they done? They're brilliant, right? As far as a chemical company, you got every year you got to buy new seeds from them. Is that helping really our food situation?
It's helping their bottom line.
It's helping their bottom line. Now, here's what's happened, because what is a chemical that is used by Monsanto, because they also manufacture it? It's called Roundup. You've heard of that chemical?
Yeah, use it in my.
Yeah, that's horrible. You don't want to use that stuff. So Roundup, the whole gist of it was, okay, you're going to use Roundup and you wouldn't have to use as much. It now requires more usage of the Roundup. Because think about what's happening. What's happening? Things are becoming more resistant.
Oh, yeah.
Does that make sense? Things are becoming more resistant. Now you have to have more usage of this Roundup. Who produces it? Monsanto. Isn't that sad? So who got together with Proposition 37? You remember that proposition?
Yeah.
What was the whole gist of this proposition? The whole gist of the proposition was your food costs were going to go up, what? $400 a year. Because they were going to have to do what? Change the labels. They change the labels all the time. They change the labels all the time. They're liars.
Right, yeah.
But what they do, they're trying to brainwash the public. Because the public is now, it's all about what we see, advertisements. God forbid, the TV has taken over our source of education. We cannot think on our own anymore. That's scary. That's really scary. So your food was going to go up 400%. And then there was a threat of litigation. Remember that?
Oh, yeah.
They presented that attorney, oh man, he's been involved in so much litigation, so everything's going to be a mess. Well, we're going to be more of a mess with this because now they're going to be able to put hide these genetically modified foods in our food system. Unless you read labels, unless you make sure it says that this has not been genetically modified, the food. Now, why is that important? Because we got genes, right? The DNA is coming from somewhere else. It's not in the normal plants and that. They're bringing new strands of DNA in. How's our body going to do that? After thousands of years, us dealing with our food, right? Now we're going to have different strands of DNA, which is going to attack our body. 10 to 15 years, we will see more health problems than ever. That's a scary part. So, this seminar is really about the thyroid, but it's really about overall health. Got it? It's not just about hypothyroidism, because see, that's one of the glands that is affected, in your case, Cynthia, but think about this. Here's what takes place in reality. Let's talk about other things that are going on with the body. What other things are going on with the body? Give me some symptoms. What do you think else is going on? Give me a symptom. How about a big one that everyone can relate to? How about fatigue? Right? Who has fatigue? Who's got fatigue? Yeah. This is the number one problem right now, concern. Okay? Should you have fatigue? No, you shouldn't have fatigue. You should have abundant energy. And the thing that's going on is that the body is what? Not working properly. Isn't that's pretty simplistic, right? I don't mean to be, kind of like, stupid, in this whole process, but our body's not working. Our bodies aren't doing the job of healing. Now, is our body supposed to heal itself? What do you think, Linda?
Yes.
Absolutely. Okay?
It's an immune system.
There you go, an immune system. But most of the time, the immune system has gone awry. That's what's taken place. So the immune system is no longer under what we call a modulated state. It's no longer functioning properly. Well, what has it gone into? Maybe it's gone into hyperdrive. Is that a good thing? No. Because if we're in hyperdrive, if the immune system is in hyperdrive, what's happening as far as the underlying inflammatory process in our body? Is it going up or is it going down? It's going up. How's the attack going to be? More. See? So thyroid's going to be attacked, okay? Nerve system's going to be attacked. Muscle's going to be attacked. What else is going to be attacked? A major organ in our body, the major organ that we better have working. Otherwise, brain. The brain, right? Because that's where the attack. Our most sensitive organ in our body is our brain. So any inflammatory process is always going to attack the brain. So guess what? Fatigue, where's that fatigue coming from? The brain, right? But underlying what's really happening, inflammatory processes going on. Okay?
So things can't get rid of them like shingles and stuff because your immune system.
That's right, the immune system. I had one patient, he had peripheral neuropathy. You ever hear of peripheral neuropathy? This is where they get the burning, tingling sensation on their feet. Many times what precedes that is what we call plantar fasciitis. Anybody had that? Okay. Yeah, so plantar fasciitis, they get pain on the bottom of their foot, and then it starts progressing. It becomes more like pins and needles. They get the numbness, they get the tingling, and even when they have covers on their feet at night, that's when it's going to be more, manifested. That's when they're going to really notice it. But here was an individual that had all kinds of shingles episodes, right? He had multiple shingle episodes. After we did this gut function test, he had parasites, he had fungus, he had yeast, he had all these what we call active antigens. What are active antigens? Well, active antigens are things where our body can no longer get rid of this. Why? Because it is overwhelmed. What does that do to inflammation? Drives it up. See? It drives it up. But what's ultimately the key here, or the reason why someone can't get rid of these parasites, this fungus and yeast that's in the gut, is what we call a leaky gut. And guess what a leaky gut is?
A gut that leaks.
An autoimmune condition. It's an autoimmune condition. How many people have heard of that? Yeah, okay, the leaky gut. So you got a leaky gut, what the heck are you going to do? Right? What are you going to do? Well, you better fix that gut. You got to fix that gut. And that's where, well, what happened first? Did the gluten sensitivity precede the leaky gut? No. The leaky gut preceded that gluten sensitivity. So there was things going on. What's going to attack our body? Okay, think about that. What's going to attack our body? Everything that we're exposed to. How about chlorine? Okay, you shower with that every day, unless you have a filter. Do you have a filter on your shower heads? Yeah, that's bad news, because guess what chlorine does to the thyroid? It depletes the thyroid, the iodine in the thyroid, making the thyroid less able to function properly. Guess what that does as far as the standpoint of now susceptibility to cancers? Goes way up. Your thyroid, what they found out is when the thyroid's not working well, that women have a greater tendency towards breast cancer. Now, they say that over 20 million people have malfunctioning thyroids. That's what they say. Okay, they really confirmed. But there's another at least triple of that actually have thyroid dysfunction. That's not found. Guess how long it takes for a thyroid problem to really be diagnosed? How many years? Guess how many years?
Right, 20.
Yeah, you're right, 20, 30 years, that long. 20 to 30 years. It's amazing how many fibromyalgia patients have underactive thyroids that are not working properly. Chronic fatigue, thyroid problems. Okay, besides, of course, the hypothyroid patients, is besides, what we call the Graves or the Hashimoto's, that type of thing. But it's amazing how many people have never really been told they have an autoimmune condition because the proper lab tests were not performed. This happens all the time, where we see patients that have been the endocrinologist and they haven't run what we call the antibodies, because that's how you determine. If the brain is being attacked, what antibodies are going to show up? Brain antibodies, okay? The cerebellum or the cerebrum. That's the brain, right? If the pancreas is going to be attacked, okay, then we're going to see those antibodies from the pancreas show up. If the myelin, we're going to see the myelin antibodies show up. If we see the thyroid, we see the thyroid antibodies showing up. See, this is blood work that can be done to determine where the attack is coming from. But what do you have to ultimately do? You know the attack, right? If you got a health problem, would you say that there's an attack going on?
Yes.
I think we could all agree with that. So if we're going to look at things from the standpoint of our basis, we better look at our cell, okay? What's within the cell? Well, we got this DNA, right? And then we got another important component called the mitochondria, which is the energy. Because mitochondria's job is to produce ATP. You heard of that? Okay, that's energy. So all this cell has got these hair-like structures on it. But what happens in most cases with individuals' health is this cell has become very rigid. It's no longer not able to be penetrated. What do we have to have that's going to penetrate that? How about thyroid hormone, okay? Thyroid releasing hormone. How about insulin? All the different hormones have to get in that cell. Why? Because it has to activate the cell so that the cell now is going to ultimately turn on. Because if the cell is turning on, we know that ATP is being produced. If ATP is produced, which is the energy, how should you feel? Should you have fatigue? No, you shouldn't have fatigue. So that's what we really got to get to is your basic foundation, your cell, right? At the cellular level to make you healthy. Well, the neat thing is that we don't rest on our laurels as far as thinking we know it all, okay? Because we're constantly trying to learn more and more, and that's why we attend a lot of different seminars all over the country, because we understand that God designed this body to heal itself. And my belief is, I don't care if you have Hashimoto's, I don't care if you have MS, I don't care, what you have, we still believe the body has that capability to heal itself. Now, does that mean that you're going to be like you were, like when you were 20 years of age? No. But if we don't turn it around, where are we going? Faster downhill. Okay? That's what's happening with the body. We know that. I got into this. People say, well, how the heck is a chiropractor know anything about nutrition? I've been doing this for over 30 years since I first came to California in 1982. The reason being is I worked with one of the top nutritional practices in the country at that point in time. So I was working with medical doctors. How many people have heard of live cell analysis, live blood cell analysis. So they take your blood, they prick it, they put it on a slide, a microscope, and then they show it on the screen, and it shows the blood flow. It shows your red blood cells, the health of that. It shows these different markers as far as maybe if you have sensitivities. It shows the flow of fat, or it shows the lack of flow, all these different things. Well, there's a medical doctor, and he's a chiropractor as well, Dr. Privatira, that developed the system back in the early 80s. So I was one of the first doctors to learn and do this type of work in the early years. Well, he was thrown in jail for practicing alternative medicine. You know they do that? Huh? They do that all the time. So he was thrown in jail for that over a period of time. Finally, he was vindicated. So, and then there was a Dr. Kelly, a dentist, that actually cured himself of cancer. This is back in the early 80s. Now, is there really a cure for cancer out there from the standpoint of what we know today medically? No. Is there going to be a cure for cancer? What do you think? There you go. No, because it's too much big money. It's too much big money. When you talk about these chemotherapies, we know patients that were on these medications. What was that one? It was $6,000, $8,000 a month for this chemo. Do you know how it was supposed to improve her lifespan for what? 12 months, 18 months? Isn't that crazy? And it didn't. It actually shortened the life because what does it do? It attacks the good, the bad, attacks everything. So we don't want the attack. We want your body to do better. Well, what do we know? We now know we can test you, okay, and find out antioxidant level. What is your antioxidant level? That's your body's ability to neutralize those free radicals, right? Free radicals are what? Cause of illness, cause of disease and all of that. So if your antioxidant level is low, what's your free radicals? Real high. How do you feel? Tired, terrible, fatigued, not able to stay asleep or fall asleep, having to get up to go to the bathroom at nighttime, which you all believe is what? Having to get up to go to the bathroom at night is what?
Old age.
Old age. That's a bunch of baloney. I'm 58 years of age. I don't have to get up at all to go to the bathroom at night. You shouldn't. If you have to get up to go to the bathroom at all at night, it's a sign of underlying inflammation going on in your body. That's what it is. It's inflammation. Think about what your body's trying to do. What is it trying to do with the inflammation? It's kind of the inflammation is acidic, right? Okay? So what's your body trying to do? It's trying to neutralize it, exactly, get rid of it. Absolutely. So it's trying to get rid of it. So the body's always trying to keep it keep itself in a state of balance. So if we have the insulin, these are supposed to activate these receptors, okay? Then it enters in the cell. Then activates the whole cell because that's like a machine. You're our cells, doing what it needs to do. And then the production of ATP and all that. So now our body is what we call hormone sensitive. That's what it should be. But see, that's not what's happening with a thyroid patient or any other really individual. The cell is no longer hormone sensitive. It's amazing. I got a gal that she's an exercise, trainer. And this gal, you look at her, you think, oh my gosh, a lot of muscles, and she's teaching at these different clubs in the local area. She came in, she's been collapsing. She's been collapsing as far as her energy. Run tests on her, yeah, her gut's a mess, okay? She's got all kinds of problems with this, what we call cortisol, which is part of blood sugar regulation. So did they notice that medically? No, because why? Because the parameters are too far out nowadays. It's what we call the reference range. You ever look at the blood work? Probably not, because the doctor might say, that's fine, that's fine, that's fine. But the reference ranges have gone out this way. Well, if you're in, teaching and that type of thing, that's all based on a bell curve. Well, as people have gotten sicker, what has the bell curve done? It's gotten bigger. So now we're talking a reference range that's huge. So for the thyroid alone, TSH is 0.5 to 4.5. That's huge. Anybody over 3, anybody over 3 is really hypothyroid, and anybody down here is what we call hyperthyroid. The thyroid's burning up. See, so that's why you're looking for more of the healthy range. But this is only one test, because then there's total T4, there's total T3, there's free T4, there's free T3, then there's reverse T3, then there's T3 uptake, and then there's the TPO and TGB. And guess what we do? We test all those. We test all those. Now I guarantee, if you've had more than 4, I'm shocked. Anybody, I'm shocked if you've had more than 4 of those tested. Now why is that important? Because any condition has a thyroid component going on. If you're feeling fatigued, you don't have the energy, your muscles are achy, your thyroid's definitely being involved. Okay? So you got to look at those parameters. So look at how many there are, and there's a few more. There's thyroid binding globulin too. So there's a lot of different parts of the thyroid that are not examined, even by these endocrinologists. I had a patient at Mayo Clinic and Johns Hopkins, right? What have you heard about I think it's Johns Hopkins? Okay, what have you heard about that?
They're fairly well known.
Huge in Massachusetts,
Yeah.
one of the best supposedly. Mayo Clinic, right? Do you know Mayo Clinic? I think everybody's heard of Mayo Clinic. Mayo Clinic, do you know what percentage of the time they're accurate in their diagnosis? Anybody want to guess?
Do you want to know?
Guess. Diagnosis. And like, you're going to be diagnosed. Yeah, because people go there to be diagnosed. Okay? So guess what percentage of the time they're correct in their diagnosis. And they're the finest now, understand that. They're the finest diagnostic institution in the world. Their percentage is 25%. 25. Would you be happy with 25%?
I was going to give him 50, but
You were going to give 50.
Yeah.
But would you be happy with 25%? I don't think so. See, is our health system really screwed up? Big time. Do you know in 50 to 60 countries in the world, they don't allow genetic modification of foods? 50 to 60 countries. We're talking, where are we in the health in the world? Do you know where we are? Huh? Guess. Low. 50. We're like 50. But childhood diseases and illnesses, we're way up there. We're higher than most. And there's so many intricacies of the body, it's incredible. And that we continue to learn, of course, and the research there. It's just like, if someone has someone's pregnant, for example, and they deliver a baby, there's a reason why God designed the baby to go through the vaginal canal, because that's the only way that this particular bacteria, it's called something gracilis, okay, can be passed on to the baby, which helps the baby's immune system. And then what else do we know about the breastfeeding? What's got to happen within about 72 hours? Do you know what has to happen? That the colostrum has to be passed on, the mother's milk, to the baby. Why is that? Because that activates the immune system. That activates the immune system. Isn't that something? That's incredible, isn't it? I know. I thought, wow, we were breastfed. We weren't. I was so disappointed when I found that out. Especially getting into health and all that. Oh, it was too hard. That's what our mom said. Yeah, too hard. Thank you very much. Okay, so there's a lot to this, and there's a reason why we have to now go back to the foundation. We have to get ourselves healthy. It is up to us to get healthy. It's not going to happen by this traditional medical model now. We have to do the proper test to find out what's happening. What do we need to know? We need to know how healthy is your cell, right? How are we going to identify that? What did I say? Antioxidant levels, right? Antioxidant levels. Now we need to know what's the burden of your body as far as what we call toxins, because there's different toxins. This young gal that I went ahead and the one that I was talking about that is the exercise, an athletic trainer. Here she does a spin class for an hour. How does she feel at the spin class? She's ready to collapse. She was lightheaded and all that. What was going on? Her blood sugar was one of the big issues. But because her body is so fatigued and so drained, her cells are so messed up that her recovery is horrible. But she's doing a heck of a lot better than when she first came in because she was a mess. She couldn't sleep. She couldn't stay asleep. She couldn't fall asleep. She was having to get up. I mean, she was collapsing. So we need to know the toxins. We need to know, one, biotoxins. What's that? Well, biotoxins like mold, that's a big thing. Another thing is like Lyme disease. You've heard of that? It's not as prevalent here as back east. Heavy metals. That's a big thing. When I tested her, she has biotoxins. We got a lot of work to do. Why? Because the toxins are going to interfere with the body's ability to repair. We can't have this burden going on because where's the burden where's it going to be? It's going to be systemic, right? But a lot's going to be in the brain too. A lot's going to be in that brain. And then there's what we call the general toxins, which all of us have. And what's that going to be? Like fungicides, herbicides, pesticides, those type of things that we're subjected to, chlorine, fluoride, bromide, Environmental, exactly. All the environmental stuff. And we all tested, and we have the environmental toxins.
Live in the environment.
They live in the environment, but that doesn't mean that we can't get to it, all right? What do we know? Well, we know that we need to be better, what we call excretors. That's what we got to get better at. We got to be better at being our bodies healthy so it's able to eliminate these toxins that we're subjected to. That's what the body has to do if it's going to really heal, get to the point of healing. So there's a lot that goes on, and it's not easy. Anybody think it's easy? I hope not. Please, this is not easy. But the rewards are tremendous. The rewards are phenomenal. It was like one patient, I don't know if our internet's working yet. Let's see that. I wanted to show you this so you can get a little bit of that idea. We got so many neat testimonials lately of ulcerative colitis. You heard of problems like that? Diverticulitis.
Yeah.
Anybody had episodes of that?
No, I've
Yeah.
heard of it.
Yeah. It's nasty. And one of the things that has really created that has been the factor of colonoscopies. So I'm not in a hurry to have a colonoscopy.
Oh, really?
Yeah. That'll many
That
times
created
trigger
it?
that.
That'll
Yeah.
trigger it?
Uh-huh. Because think of what they're doing, and they're going in there with those foreign tubes, and they realize that this isn't one of the best type of procedures for really identifying what's going on within the colon, So they're looking at that. It's just like the mammograms. Mammograms, people think are so great. There's more cancer caused as a result of mammograms because of what?
Radiation.
Radiation, right? It's a huge issue. So there's better tests. There's thermography. Anybody heard of thermography? That's a heck of a lot better as far as identifying that. Or MRIs. Well, with the colon, there's really nothing there, that's better at this point in time. You might have heard of body scans or things of that. Yeah. Those aren't cutting it yet. But what we need to do, of course, is get healthy. And by getting healthy, then your body is in this protective state. Let's go ahead and click that on, get that up real fast. For some reason, I don't know if it was the rain or what that was causing that. How many people have had balance problems, dizziness, lightheadedness? Yeah. That's a horrible thing to happen. You ever had the room spinning? Huh? Or you get up too quickly and you get a little lightheaded? Okay. Well, those are problems. That's toxicity. That's inflammation going on in the body. Here's a gal. She's a teacher, and this is kind of neat. She just started on the program. It's supposed to be working. That's it. Something happened to the volume here. What happened there? That's all working.
Toxicity.
Yeah, toxicity, I think it is. I got a little bit.
Several years, and I can't believe it, how long I can work at it and make decisions that, yeah, I don't want to do that, and get rid of it. And sleeping is great.
I can't even hear that. Can you hear it?
Barely.
Barely.
It's not going through those.
Huh?
Try putting in the other one now.
No, it's not gonna work at all. But, oh, yeah. Huh?
I thought I did for a second.
No. It did for a second, but now there's something going on. I don't know if it's a plug in itself.
It's still there a little
There
bit,
you go.
but I
Huh?
There
recover
you go,
real
it's better.
fast now. When I go to the cupboard, I might have to wait a minute, but before I stare and think,
This is
and I'd
not
have to
good.
walk away, and then I'd remember, but now I can catch it before I have to walk away. So I'm real happy with that.
That's my neighbor.
That is your name, yeah.
Oh, yeah, I have an 8-year-old granddaughter.
So her biggest thing was her granddaughter, was the fact that here,
Out of breath, I wasn't exhausted, my legs didn't hurt. It was great. It was great, so.
legs would hurt. She wouldn't even be able to climb stairs, you know? What did we think of that? It's part of the old age, right? Because you're not having the energy that you should have. So what is that again? Remember the ATP within the cell? The body isn't producing the ATP, the energy for the repairing necessary for the body to heal itself. And here she's been on thyroid medication. Now, wouldn't you like to be off medication, ultimately? Wouldn't you like to be off of it? But that's the whole goal, that's why the basic foundation has to be addressed from the cellular level so that you can get to the point where you get off. Is our job to get you off the medication? No, it's not. Our job is to get your body well so that your medical doctor is going to be able to take you off the medication because you're doing better. And that's what's happening with the diabetes patients. That's what's happening with some thyroid patients. And now we've reintroduced this new procedure so that we can get your body working. Now what's another big factor that's taken place as far as from the health of most people? I'll tell you what another big thing is happening. Is all the number one drug probably in the United States right now is what? A group of drugs. Anybody want to guess? Huh?
For cholesterol.
Cholesterol is huge, but depression and anxiety,
Oh,
you know?
In a commercial.
Yeah, that's huge, isn't it? I mean, that is huge. This gal
They
that-
want you to ask for them by brand name.
Right, yeah. I mean, this is a huge thing that's going on now with all people being on these depression and anxiety. Well, let me tell you something. If the thyroid's not working, if your adrenal glands, anybody ever heard of the adrenal glands? Okay, these glands located above the kidney. What is their job? Well, their job is to produce what we call the neurotransmitters. What are neurotransmitters? I'm just going to read it. That's a brain chemistry. That's what their job is, to produce neurotransmitters. What else is it? To regulate your sex hormones. What else is the job of the adrenals? To regulate your blood sugar, metabolism.
Take you into overdrive when you're in stressful situations.
That's right, into the fight or flight situation,
That's it.
exactly. Okay, so the adrenal glands are involved in a lot of different functions. What we know is that everything is related to what we call the HPA axis. What does that mean? It means your hypothalamus, which is where? Brain, right? Pituitary, which is where? Brain. And adrenals, okay? See how that works? So this is a whole communication network that's got to take place. The hypothalamus has got to communicate to the pituitary and then to the adrenals. And if this axis isn't working properly, do we have a state of health? No, we don't. But see, we can add that thyroid into the picture, right? Because really it should be hypothalamus, pituitary, thyroid, adrenal axis. That's what it should be. Now when we get this, well, what's affecting this hypothalamus? Well, it will be the gluten if you have a sensitivity to it. What does that do? Well, that's shutting down the hypothalamus if the hypothalamus isn't receptive. So what do we end up doing? We end up eating more than we should, because what does the hypothalamus do? It helps regulate our appetite. Did you know that? Did you ever notice why sometimes it's hard to lose weight? Because from the cellular level, things in metabolism is down. But secondly, the hypothalamus isn't working as well as it should, which means that your appetite control center is not functioning properly. Yeah. Well, there's another doctor that talked about the devastations of wheat. And he said that if someone eating the wheat today, because of the hybridization and the genetic modification, that people were consuming 450 calories more per day as a result of that. Because what's going on? The feedback loop is shut down. People aren't able to get that sense of fullness. Okay? And that's all about, what we've gotten in today as far as our diet. But does it mean if you go gluten-free that you're going to be healed up? No. It's just the beginning, because gluten, you could still have problems with gluten, with the gut, with all this inflammatory processes. Because it's not just about the gluten, there's so many other things that are happening. And that's where the real true repair has got to be identified, so you can focus on that. So we can get to that root cause and get the body working and functioning properly. Now, how many people have had a recent blood test? How many people have had a recent blood test? What did they discuss with you? Let's say you start with you, Cynthia.
It's
A panel.
yeah, a bunch of them that gives these ranges, and so she would go down and say, okay, because they adjusted my thyroid medication, so now I'm within that range.
Raise it, or?
She actually had me go off the generic and go on to the actual, because she said it
The
is
Synthroid
specific.
you're talking about?
Yeah, she
Okay.
said it is
Yeah.
specific enough that it has an impact and whatever.
Right.
And that I'm more vitamin D because I'm postmenopausal.
Right.
So
Was your vitamin D level low?
Yeah.
Okay.
A bunch of stuff.
Okay.
2 pages worth.
So if your vitamin D level is low, that's really a sign that you're not absorbing.
Okay.
That's what it means. So what does it mean? So let's trace it back and let's find out the cause. So what's going on with the gut? Is the gut working and functioning properly?
What is the gut? Is that my stomach or my
Stomach
intestine?
and intestines, yes.
Both the
intestines,
small
yeah.
and the large?
Small intestines, yeah.
And my stomach?
Yeah,
All right.
there you go. So we're going to talk about the whole digestive system,
Okay.
stomach,
Right.
small intestine, and the
Right.
colon, right? So your gut is not working properly.
Right.
So there's something going on in there that's not allowing the absorption, because your vitamin D level should be normal. It should be good. But what was your vitamin D level? Do you have any idea? No. So we're seeing vitamin D levels in the 20s. Now, what they consider normal, I think, is the 30s. But guess where your vitamin D level should be? It should be greater than 60. Because what is vitamin D? It is an immune modulator. It's really a hormone. Okay? So we see a lot of these vitamin D levels going way down. And so they're saying, well, Southern California, you would think with the sun that the vitamin D levels are going to be high.
Sunscreen.
Well, sunscreen could be one of them, but the other thing is the malabsorption, all the chemicals. And then you got the chemicals from the sunscreens that is screwing people up, because what is that? That's a toxin, right?
Well,
That's why I
dairy.
don't use, huh?
I thought dairy would take care of it.
Dairy would take care of it?
Yeah.
Oh, because they put the D in.
Yeah, because no. So that doesn't do it at all, because you might have a sensitivity to dairy and you don't even know it. It's like one of our patients. She developed thyroid problems, Graves' disease, with her first pregnancy. And so they had to put her on a drug so that they could give her the radioactive iodine, but not kill it. Her thyroid, but kind of reset it. And then on her second pregnancy, she developed what they call gestational diabetes. And they said that would go away, soon after. Never went away. So what would you know about this type of person from me giving you this information? Is there an autoimmune component with this individual?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I would
Absolutely.
think overweight.
Huh?
I would think she was
She's
overweight.
thin.
All right, well, so that's
She's
where I
thin.
would've gone.
Yeah. So what does that mean? Well, overweight, see, now that could be what we call type 2 diabetes, which is weight-induced, or we got an autoimmune component. But the first hint is that she developed the thyroid problems during her pregnancy. Why is that going to happen many times during pregnancy? Because of greater stress on the body. Where's the priority? to the baby, the developing baby. So that's why things are going to show up during the pregnancy. That's why most things will be noticed in women versus men, because of the greater stress that a woman's body's going through. But vitamin D, most vitamin D is a result of the malabsorption problems. So you go, and we see this all the time, the bouncing from the hormones, like Synthroid to Armour, this or that. The reality is your body's not functioning properly, because if it was functioning properly, what would happen? It wouldn't need that hormone, right? It wouldn't need the hormone. And when the need for drugs goes up, what does it tell us about our bodies? It's getting worse, exactly. It's getting worse, So yeah, you got the cholesterol medications, the statins, and all this other stuff. We know that a drug wouldn't be a drug without side effects. Synthroid, they referred to that because that was the original thyroid replacement hormone. That's what they referred to. It's still synthetic. No matter what, it's still synthetic. It's like any drug. So what is our goal? Our goal is really to get to the root cause of the problem of your body, which means get to what level? The cellular level. Get to the cellular level, because unless you fix the cells, are you going to fix the body? Because cells, if we take a bunch of cells, what does a bunch of cells turn into? Tissues. A bunch of tissues turned into organs, right? Glands and organs and all of that. It's just a compilation of the cells that turns into the glands or the organs of that. See? That's what we are. So that's what it's all about, is getting the body to the point where it can get healthy. But again, is it an easy process? No. Because we still do it ourselves, My goal is to be healthier. 58 years of age. See, I didn't say old. You see that? Because it's all about our age. It's not how old we are, right? When you say that, Wilma? It's not how old. I never ask people how old they are. I say, what is your age? Because, see, someone can be 30, but they could look like 60, right? Someone can be 60 and look like 100, God forbid. So I know that with the things that our whole thing has been the discovery of health, to achieve greater health. Our dad at 82 years of age was coming down with dementia. We could tell, right? Slower and all that. We went and had him see some doctors back in Michigan, because they were living in Michigan, we're out here, so that he could at least turn his health around. He went through a process of what we call IV chelation, which did help him. He had like over 80% blockage in both carotid arteries. What did they want him to do? They want to do surgery, the Roto-Rooter surgery. One of the side effects of that is losing your voice, and then having a stroke, God forbid. Because what is surgeries? There's always a greater possibility of having like an embolism and a stroke. So he was able to live pretty darn healthy up until the age of 95. But he messed up. He did mess up when he was 83. He started baking zucchini bread. And guess what that did? The flour, the sugar, messed up his blood sugar. Well, what do we know? Do you know what we know? There is 4 different types of diabetes. Did you know that? Okay, you will not hear about this. You know why? Because the pharmaceutical industry they don't have drugs for the different 4. They only have drugs for the 2. So that's why you only hear about that. There is a type 1, which we know is what? Juvenile. Yeah, but it's really, you're not born with it. You know what they think? It's a lot of his dairy reaction, because the person has a dairy intolerance, and the same immune system response that is attacking the dairy attacks the pancreas, causes the type 1 diabetes. Okay? And there's a whole nother lecture on dairy and that. Type 2 is what? We say that is weight-induced, right? But now we know that there's a type 1.5. What does that mean?
That's what I want to know, because I went to a new doctor.
Yeah?
And they says, well, we're going to test, you might be a 1.5, because I've had it over 50 years.
Yeah. A 1.5, autoimmune.
And then that doctor quit and went to
Yeah.
take a better position.
Sure.
And so I haven't
Yeah.
found another doctor who's
Talk about it.
qualified.
Right. So 1.5 is really an autoimmune. Comes on later in life, okay? But it's still autoimmune. Because what do we know about this? Definitely autoimmune. This is definitely autoimmune. Now we have a type 3. You know what type 3 is? That
Is
is
that the Alzheimer's?
Alzheimer's, exactly.
Because I've been reading
So why
about
is
that.
it critical to have our blood sugar under control? Because we know that sudden spikes of the blood sugar causes atrophy of the brain. Causes atrophy of the brain. Sudden spikes of the blood sugar. That's bad. So you think about the holiday time. What are people doing? They become gluttons, right? Eating all kinds of food, extending, their bellies beyond control, causing a greater burden on the body. What happens during this time of year? What happens as far as heart attacks?
Suicide.
Suicide. They go up, right? Heart attacks, deaths go up. Why they go up? Because of all the consumption of the foods and the sugars and foods that people are eating. The burden is much greater. So
Stress levels,
anytime we increase our food and the amounts we eat, right? What does the heart have to do? It has to work harder. Exactly. See how that all works? So the type 3 is now the dementia Alzheimer's. And that's what happened to our father. He started doing all this type of things, and then about 93 and a half, that's when he started developing the bit of dementia, and then boom, that was it. He didn't know us. But that's because he was looking for a hobby. He was always busy doing something. His hobby was baking zucchini bread. And I said, no way, Dad, don't bake this stuff. That was back, in 2006 that he passed away, right? 95, yeah. Okay. So we gave you a little food for thought. What would be one of the things that people would want to do right away as far as for improvement, overall improvement? What would you want to do?
Yourself.
Huh? Become your own best doctor. That's what you really want to do. You want to become your own best doctor. See, our job is to empower you. What is our job? Our job is to make you your own best doctor so you understand this whole thing. We know that it is important to fast. Do you know that? Do you know that the research shows that we increase our lifespan, our health, if we do intermittent fasting? Do you know that?
And it's
Yeah.
what you eat
So
right
if-
at the end, though.
Pardon me?
When you start eating, you have to eat correctly. That's a
Always.
real-
You always got to do that. But we know that there's only certain things. If we have this cell, remember we talked about the cell? We talked about this cell that needs to be activated, right? Well, we're not going to get anything in this cell. Why? Because the cell's rigid. So the hormones aren't, getting in, the cell's not being activated, the DNA's not being activated, the energy is not being activated. How are we going to get into that cell? Well, that's all part of that, what we talked about, the intermittent fasting. But it's a special protocol that has to take place. I put this gal that has diabetes at 1.5, started putting her on that. She always noticed that she was bloated. She was never heavy, okay? Never heavy. But she lost more and more weight. She doesn't have any of the bloating anymore, anything like that going on. But her concern was that was she going to lose too much weight? Because she started at 140. What is she weighing now? She's lost 21 pounds. She's at 119.
Yeah.
She's at 119. She looks fabulous. She looks about 5'4", something like that. Looks fabulous. So again, what is longevity based on? Did you know that people that are thinner live longer? Did you know that? Yeah. But we don't want to lose what? We don't want to lose muscle. We want to lose what? Fat. We need to become fat burners. Pat, you're not a fat burner. Guess what you are?
I know I'm not a fat
You're a
burner.
sugar burner, okay? And this is why the whole aspect has to be dialed in to identify what is it going to really take. Do you think this athletic trainer, you think she's monitoring her blood sugar every day or 4 days out of 7? Yes, she is. She's doing that. Because what do we notice? She's got blood sugar dysfunction. She goes from hypoglycemic to what we call insulin resistant. Now understand that when you do the blood sugar test says that I think from 75 or 65? I think it's a 65. 65 to 110 in that reference range of the blood sugar on your blood panels that your doctor does, that's normal range.
It's crazy.
That's crazy. You know what normal healthy range is? It's 85 to 100. Anything above 100 is what we call insulin resistant. What does that mean? The cell's not being activated, right? Insulin, the hormones aren't getting into the cell. Now, when we talk below 85, what is that? Hypoglycemia, exactly. What usually takes place? You ever hear people say, I get the shakes and all that, man, if I don't eat?
You
Yeah.
can't think, you know.
You
you're-
can't think. Now, how many people wake up at nighttime? How many people have a hard time staying up or staying asleep? Nobody? Okay, you have a hard time staying asleep. So here's what's happening. That's a blood sugar handling problem. Why is that? Because the brain needs a consistent supply of blood sugar throughout the nighttime. Now, during the nighttime, we're not eating, right? So what's got to happen? Well, it's a hormone called cortisol. You've heard of this hormone? Guess where that's produced by? Those adrenal glands. Remember that? The adrenal glands that we talked about earlier? So the job of cortisol is it higher at nighttime when we're asleep. So cortisol is going to now affect the liver, which stores glucose, as well as the fat cells, right? To break down to create what we call gluconeogenesis. That's what's supposed to happen. See how that works? So there's muscle, there's fat storage in the muscles and the liver and things like that. So that's what cortisol's job is. So if the cortisol drops, okay, we drop cortisol at nighttime, guess what happens? You wake up. Why? Because your body thinks that it's morning.
Time to eat.
Yeah, it's time to eat. There you go. Exactly. Isn't that amazing? See, so when we talk about, is this really a hypothyroid seminar? Got what I'm saying? It's all about truly health, and that's what it should be. It doesn't matter what we have, okay? It's what's going on in the body, because it's our genetic predisposition that will determine what we develop. See, what is our genetic predisposition? Did your mother, did your father have thyroid problems?
No,
Aunts,
but
uncles?
My dad had rheumatoid arthritis.
Okay,
There's
autoimmune,
strong
there you go.
autoimmune.
Now, do you have an autoimmune problem? Have you ever been diagnosed with it?
No.
Okay.
Thyroid.
But the likelihood is you do. Okay,
Yeah.
that's a likelihood, you do, okay? So, the genetic predisposition. But here's what we know, here's the good news. We can rise above our genetics. What is that called?
Being healthy.
Well, it's called healthy, exactly, but it's called epigenetics. That's what it's called, epigenetics. So you're rising above your genetic potential. You're turning it around. Wouldn't it be nice to turn you around so you didn't need any, what is it, are you insulin? You have to take
Yeah, I
insulin
get the
because of 1.5, right? Well, some people believe, well, that pancreas is burnt out, maybe it doesn't have the capability to function again. But that's not necessarily true. It's just that the pancreas has gone into a state of maybe sleep. Okay? It's no longer getting all the input that it needs to work properly. Now, why are we concerned about the medications? Remember? Because the side effects. Well, what do we know about these drugs? The side effects are horrible. Then when we talk about thyroid, there's all kinds of manifestations with that as well. Insulin obviously is a big thing. Anything is going to affect all the different glands and organs and make us more toxic, right? And if we're more toxic, what's happening to the cells? They're shutting down big time. So this, go ahead.
52?
52, okay. So anyways, I can go on forever, But it's a passion that I have for, I'm getting healthier. My job is to get myself healthier, right? Because I gotta walk the talk. I'm not gonna be someone that's unhealthy and, promote health. So I'm always trying to get healthier.
Like
Dude.
the MD that weighs 300 pounds.
God forbid, yeah, I mean, what's wrong with that
I've seen
picture?
there.
But see, here's what it's become. How can you go to a medical doctor and truly get healthy? It's not possible. Why is that not possible? Tell me. Tell me.
Drugs.
Drugs, and you got that, give me more, give me more.
They
Give
know
me more.
nothing about nutrition.
Because
They know
never
nothing
have.
about nutrition, but here's what happens. Okay, you're talking about medical schools, right? This is where they're educated, huh? Now, the school we went to back in Michigan, over 50% of my class is professionals. Chiropractors, medical doctors, podiatrists, all different types of doctors, right? And I said to my medical doctor friends, because I always like to challenge them, I said, if you had cancer, would you go have chemotherapy and radiation? They said no. They said no. But boy, they sure who wants to push it. That's big money in that, like we talked about earlier. So the medical schools are funded by drug companies. So doctors, remember Marcus Welby, MD, remember that? That was a good doctor, right? Because he was really, truly a great diagnostician. It was all about finding and getting to the cause of the problem. It doesn't happen today because the doctors are trained according to what they're taught in the medical school. The medical schools are funded by the pharmaceutical companies. The pharmaceutical companies are now providing all the research, basically saying, if you got this condition, this is the drug you take. It's all condition related. So when you have your blood test, they're not going to do comprehensive tests that are going to identify any problems that they can't give you a drug for. So what do we know about autoimmune? How do they address an autoimmune problem? How is that addressed?
They don't.
They don't. They really can't, unless they put you on something like this. Prednisone. You heard of that? Or what we call corticosteroids. Do they work? Whew. Yeah, man, but the side effects are huge. Avascular necrosis, meaning, if you're on prednisone, likelihood of you having to have a hip replacement, shoulder replacement, or knee or something like that is real high. Why? Because it shuts off the blood supply to the joint. That's what it does. How long does it take to do that? 10, 15, 20, 30 years. We've seen that. Lupus, you're talking about lupus. What is lupus? Lupus is a compilation of all different autoimmune diseases where the person is really just getting bombarded by all these different, conditions going on in the body. What's going on? The body's attacking itself. How do you stop the attack? Sure, not with the drugs. Because once you start someone on pain medication, what happens? Well, yeah, the resistance, right? So now they got to go on to something else and something else, right? Because things stop working. It's that way with every single drug that we put in our body. Eventually, it's not going to be able to do the job that it needs to do. Our body is the best, most comprehensive pharmaceutical factory that exists. The best.
Also, the one that you don't even have to get a doctor to give you is ibuprofen,
Right.
and it works with the cholesterol medicine, and it's ruining people's kidneys. and
Oh,
livers.
yeah, absolutely,
And,
absolutely.
it must be not so bad. Someone said this to me. Oh, it must not be so bad. I can buy it over the counter.
It's true, there's
They
a
did that on
perception
purpose,
there.
though. They did that with the same thing that was called Naprosyn. I don't know if you ever heard of that. It was the #1 cause of bleeding ulcers. So what they did is they put it on the over-the-counter as a leave. That's what they did. It's the same thing. It's just a little bit less, powerful. But you're talking about a drug that causes bleeding ulcers. So now you get all these other complications as a result of taking these drugs because you're not fixing anything. Why not get to the fixing of the things? That's why we hold these seminars, it's all about fixing. Let's get back to the fixing. Let's get back to the Marcus Welby so that we can help individuals get well.
And also, doctors have a tendency to work on one thing and then on something else. So,
Well, yeah, and that's a whole different ballgame because you got to look at the whole picture. That's why I say it's like you're an onion, Cynthia, right? What do? We peel one layer. What's happening? Another layer. You got it? So you don't create health. It's not easy. It's not easy, but boy, oh boy, is it wonderful. I mean, go to our web. If you go to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Valentine Chiro, you'll see all kinds of different conditions. Gastritis. Gastritis. This is becoming a huge thing because people are put on these proton pump inhibitors like Pridosec, like Nexium, like Acifex, all these different things. What is it doing? Destroying their gut. They're a mess. Young girl, 25, 26, in a master's program in the University of Redlands, she's seen the John Hopkins and this other doctor, what they want to do. They keep on doing endoscopies. Let me tell you something. You did one, why do you got to keep on doing them?
yeah.
Why do you got to keep on doing them? You did one, so what? You found the redness in there, you put them on a different drug, they're still not fixing anything, so now she's got all other kinds of problems going on. You don't just have one problem, you now have multiple problems because that's just one of the many signs and symptoms of a body that's not working properly. Boy, that doesn't take a genius to figure it out. So, here's what we're doing. We're offering the opportunity to get evaluated, okay? What I talked about earlier. I said, we need to know your antioxidant level, right? So we do a test that measures your antioxidants. It's a urine test. It's 50 times more accurate than a blood test. Is that impressive? It's real impressive, man. I mean, I'm excited. You should be excited about that. So that's incredible. Then we do a visual test, because what nerve in the body is most affected by toxins? The optic nerve, your vision. Yes. So we do a visual test. This was developed by another doctor. Okay? So we do these tests. Then we test your brain. So we test one, antioxidants, find out how your antioxidant level is working. Secondly, we get an idea of the biotoxin level, your burden, as well as general toxins, okay? And then third, we're going to do brain evaluation. Why? Why are we going to do a brain evaluation? What controls your body? The brain, exactly. It's amazing how many people have had an auto accident? Auto accident. Come on.
An auto accident.
Auto accident, car accident, minor, I don't care if it's minor, major, whatever. How many people have snow skiing, water skiing? How many, anything. Guess what it's done? It's created a trauma on the brain. What do we know about the football players today?
Oh, so true.
What do we know? That's dementia, that's Alzheimer. Remember Jim, I think his name, Jim McMahon, Chicago Bears? The guy doesn't remember one day from another, and he's younger than me. Isn't that scary? See, we know these things, but you think that the whole insurance industry, the medical industry wants to admit to this? No way. There's a neurologist out of, he works with the NHL. What are the two sports that most concussions happen? The hockey and football, okay? So what this medical neurosurgeon has said, the key thing was, for the rehabilitation of the brain, was chiropractic. It was chiropractic. Why? Because chiropractic stimulates. Okay, if we stimulate the body, guess what we're doing to the brain? Stimulating the brain. See? But most people have a fear of chiropractic. How many people have a fear of chiropractic? Some people, of course you do. Okay, that's
all be quacks.
exactly. And that's, that's what got me into chiropractic when I was young, because I had been under chiropractic care at the age of 15 years of age. I was shoveling stones in my dad's building, and I hurt my back. I went ahead and looked under the yellow pages, chiropractor. Did I know at 15 years of age what a chiropractor was? No. I went, got adjusted, did great. Problem was he didn't educate my parents. That was a big time mistake. But the thing about that is that chiropractic has always been under the attack, because can we offer the pharmaceutical industry any way of making money from us? No. Do we promote vaccinations? No, we don't. Why is that? Because we believe that the body has the ability to heal itself. What do we know about vaccines? It turns into like shingles, okay? Those type of problems, other, chronic autoimmune diseases. The vaccines that they're giving today, compared to when I was young, I think it was like a maximum of 5 to 10 when I was young. How many vaccines now for a kid? It's over 40. It's over 40. You think you think the body can handle that, a developing body? Come on. Do you know what's in there in vaccines? Formaldehyde, propylene glycol, you know what that is? Antifreeze. Okay? Viruses, all kinds of things, yeah. So I haven't had a drug, not even an aspirin, since 1979. Not even an aspirin. Because you know what they feel? They feel that if an aspirin today was on the market for approval, FDA approval, it probably wouldn't be approved because of bleeding, that it takes. So, getting back to this, okay? So we're going to do all these evaluations, check your brain, see how your brain is functioning and firing, because that brain is critical as to how your body is working. Now, normally, the cost of this is $325 for everything we're doing, okay? Today and today only, it's $95 for that. $45, which you make as a deposit, okay, for the appointment. The remaining $50 is when you come in for that appointment. But in the meantime, what you're given paperwork. Because we want you to fill out paperwork. We need to know your past history. We need to know what's going on. We're going to sit down and we're going to do like a detective. We're going to find out what's happened to you in the past. What initiated? What happened before you became a diabetic, Pat? What happened? Do you know what we know? that there's something that's taken place. Maybe there was a trauma, maybe there was a chemical exposure, maybe there was some burden on the body that started this whole process. Isn't that amazing? There's something that happened. Why? Because all it did was take something to cause it to go over the cliff. There was something that happened. It was like so many. There was a gal that was at one of the seminars, and I talked about this. She had no family history of thyroid problems at all. She ended up with Graves' disease, right? What happened is she was on a four-wheel, what do they call four-wheeler, and had a fall and had a concussion. And that started it. 1 week later, she developed Graves' disease. See how that is, how important the brain is? That's phenomenal. And the neat thing is, we know the brain has ability to do better. What do we call that? We call that neuroplasticity. Anybody heard of that? Neuroplasticity? So the brain has the ability to work and function better. That what we thought was cellular damage, that was brain cell damage, was permanent, guess what? It's not. Isn't that good news? That's exciting to me because, wow, we're looking at things from a whole different perspective than we looked at before. So we know a heck of a lot more. It's just that you got to give the body the opportunity to heal. Because if we are burdened with all these toxins and everything else, is our body going to regenerate? Is it? No, it's not going to regenerate. Yeah. So that's what it is, okay? And Loose Up there is making the appointments. If you're interested, just go ahead and do that. But it's kind of, this is all the exciting stuff. And it's all about you getting well, you doing great. You know what my goal, what's your goal, Cynthia? What is your goal?
Well, I'd like to be healthier, I'd like to lose some weight, and I'd like to feel stronger. I've been joined a gym, I'm feeling stronger, I'm still overweight.
Right.
But I drank beer yesterday, so
Yeah.
that's not helping matters any.
Those things are easy.
No, I'm just saying
Those
that's-
things are easy.
I'm
No.
59 and I think I can, I want to stay like this
Yeah.
and get healthy.
How about a bigger goal? How about to get off the medication? Wouldn't that be a better goal?
I never looked at it.
Huh?
Yes, it's the
That's
best.
my goal for you,
Yeah.
really, is to get off the medication, okay?
Yeah.
That's my goal. My goal for you is to reduce that medication down to nothing hardly, or maybe turn things around so that you do great. Now, what do we know time-wise? Guess how long that it really takes to get the burden off the body? Do you know how long it takes?
Been a long time.
Minimum 2 years.
Yeah.
See? So it's not easy. It's not easy. But boy, if you're wanting, if you got that desire, you got that goal, you turn things around.
But you can feel better in a matter of
You,
weeks.
yeah, you
It's the
feel
main
better.
thing.
That's a neat thing.
It's not
That's a
cured,
good point.
but yeah.
You feel better in a matter of weeks. That's amazing. But it's not easy. But what's our job? Our job is like a coach, right? Everybody needs a coach. If you're an athlete, you need a coach. Tiger Woods, does he have a coach? He's the greatest golfer ever, but he's still got a coach. He always switches coaches, right? But you always have to have a coach because you got to have someone to be accountable to. And that's our job. We sit down, we go over everything with you. And it's real interesting, this patient, with the diabetes and all that, her blood sugar she was happy with her blood sugar being, she was happy with it being a 130 in the
130,
morning.
yeah.
130 in the morning. Now it's down to about 110, 107. And she was happy with 140 in the evening, after a meal. And now it's down in the 115s, 120. I'm not happy. I wanted better, right? I wanted better. But here's what she did, which was real interesting. She went ahead because, it's all about cooking too and how you're going to prepare foods and all that. And so I had her get an egg replacement because she's sensitive to eggs. She can't eat the eggs. So there was an egg replacement. And it was supposed to be gluten-free, dairy-free, soy-free, and all this. She gets one, and she gets Bob's Red Mill. How many people have heard of Bob's Red Mill? You've heard of that, Susan. You've heard of that. Anyways, Bob's Red Mill's got gluten in it. It's got soy in it. It's got all this stuff in it. So I'm wondering, why the heck is her blood sugar going, like that? So why is it coming down? Because she got the product. She didn't read the label. See how it is? So now we got to turn it around. Throw that out. Let's get on the right thing. What do we know about foods? Most of the foods are genetically modified. What is the biggest genetically modified foods that exist? Give me one.
Meat.
Wheat.
Also
Another.
Soy and
Soy,
corn.
soy, corn. What's another one?
Well,
Cotton, beets, all these different things. There's a lot of them. It's
Oh, yeah.
unbelievable, the genetic modification. So there is a lot of genetic modification. We need to read labels. We need to make the demands, because it's our buying power which is going to cause them to put the, you know, the label, change the label. We need to demand that. That's a huge issue. Okay, so with that.